Hi friends, welcome to the Safe Path Veterinary Services. In this video, we are going to talk about the reproductive cyclicity in animals and the physiological estrous cycle of the animals. If we talk about the estrous cycle, it consists of the two phases. The first is the follicular phase and the next is the luteal phase. In the follicular phase, the dominant structure on the surface of the ovary is the follicle, and the follicle produces estrogen hormone, that is the dominant hormone during the follicular phase. In the case of the luteal phase, the dominant structure on the surface of the follicle is the corpora lutea, and the hormone that is present during the luteal phase in the blood, that is the progesterone. Here we are going to talk about the estrous cycle of different animal. There are some polyestrous animal that have many heat cycle around a year, that are the cow, queen, pig, and rodents. And some are the seasonal polyestrous. If we talk about the long day breeders, that is the mare. They have the breeding season during the spring, only during the long days. If we talk about the ewe, doe, elk, and nanny, they are the short day polyester, seasonally polyester short day breeder. They have the autumn season of their reproduction. If we talk about the seasonally polyester long day breeder, they almost breed in April, May, June, and the short day breeders autumn breeding season animals are October, November, and September. They breed during this season. There are some monoestrous animals that they have only one heat cycle around a year. These are the dog, wolf, fox, and bear. Astral cycle physiological properties are cyclical in nature. The cycle can be interrupted or elongated by pregnancy or some other abnormal situations like cyst formation. Cycle is controlled by the hormone. Cycle is divided into proestrus, estrus, metaestrus, and diestrus. These are the cyclical stages in the case of the bovines and equines. From endocrine point, estrus cycle is divided into follicular phase and the luteal phase that we have discussed earlier. If we talk about the stages of estrus, the proestrus, that is the before the desire or the before the heat, and this stage of the estrus cycle is referred as the preparation for mating and has high E2 level. In the second stage is the estrus, that is the stage of desire. The sting or frenzy behavior is shown during this stage. That is the stage of sexual receptivity or the lordosis, and it is characterized by the E2 level at its peak. In this stage of the estrous cycle, the ovulation occurs. Next stage is the meta-estrus, that is the after desire. This stage is characterized by E2 and low P4 level. That is the stage for the preparation of the pregnancy. If we talk about the next stage, that is the diestress, this stage is characterized, termed by the duration between the two estrus cycles. This stage is characterized by the high P4 level, and animal is in quiescent stage. Next, there is some in some condition there is an anestrus, that is the without desire, no signs of heat. The anestrus can be physiological in some animal and can be caused by pregnancy, due to the P4 level, and in lactation due to the low LH surge, low LH level, and the presence of offspring. And seasonal anestrus, anestrus due to stress, and any pathological anestrus in an animal can be present. If we talk about the terminologies, the in the European countries, the terminology estrus is used in the noun condition, that is present in the upper column, upper row, and if we are using it as adjective, then it is present in the lower row. You can say the estrus cycle, and the estrus cycle of the North America. The 18 to 24-hour period of extra receptivity is present in the case of the cow. That is the 18 to 24-hour period of the heat, and in the case of estrus cycle, that is of the 21 days, that is used as the whole cycle. Four stages of the estrus cycle. You can see here the proestrus, estrus, metaestrus, and diestrus. You can check here the length of the estrus cycle. And there in some condition there is true anestrus or the apparent anestrus, silent ovulation. Anestrus can result from the negative energy balance. The follicular phase is characterized by the two stages of the estrus cycle, that are the proestrus and the estrus, and the luteal phase is characterized by two stages, that these are the metaestrus and diestrus. The proestrus and estrus are present during the follicular phase of the estrus cycle, and the luteal after the after the ovulation, the corpus luteum development. These stages are the metaestrus and the diestrus. In this graph, you can say the see the graphical representation of the Astral cycle. You can see the in the pro-Astral there is elevation in the level of the E2, and in the decline in the level of P4. In the Astral there is the peak level of the E2 and the lower level of the P4. In the meta-Astral there again there is a decline in the level of E2 and rise in the level of the P4. In the you can say diastress, there is the peak maintenance of the P4 and E2 and at the lower stage, and next cycle is represented next. We characterize the estrus, the stage of the estrus, by the day 0. In this graph you can also see the same condition of the ovulation and follicular phase. In the previous picture we have seen the stages of the estrus. This shows the phases of the estrus. Follicular phase and the luteal phase of the estrus cycle are characterized here. If we are going to talk about the you can say the lactational anestrus, why the lactational anestrus takes place in this condition. If we talk about the start of the lactation, there is the suckling or the suckling sections sessions between 3 to 20 per day. This causes the limiting this called limitation in the LH level in the blood, and thus there is an stress during this condition. If the suckling or the you can milk letdown starts 2 or less per day, then there will be an elevation in the level of LH, and the animal again comes into the estrus. In the starting few days, you can say there is the lactational anestrus, and it can be at any time when there is the increased frequency of the you can say suckling or the milk letdown. Reproductive phenomena of domestic female, the estrus duration in the cow, ewe and mare is and estral duration in the cow is 18 to 20, or you can say 16 hours. In the case of ewe it is up to 30 hours. In the case of mare it is up to 6 days. Ovulation time after the beginning of estrus is the 30 hours and 26 hours in the case of ewe, and the at the 5th day after you can say start of the estrus in the mare. The cycle duration is 21 days in the cow and 17 days in the ewe and 21 days in the mare. If we are going to talk about the the estrus cycle began and end with the estrus are on at ovulation. The follicular phase is short and the luteal phase is the long. And in comparison, the menstrual cycle begins at day 0 and ends with the start of the menses at the day 28. Ovulation occurs in the middle, and the follicular phase and luteal phase are of the same length. You can see in the picture the description of these cycles. If we're going to talk about the comparison between the estrous cycle and menstrual cycle, the follicular phase is short 20% of the estrous cycle in the case of the estrous cycle and 50% in the case of the menstrual cycle. The ovulation is at the beginning or end of the estrus. The ovulation is at the middle of the cycle in the case of menstrual cycle. In the case of luteal phase, the estrous cycle you can say it is the 80% of the estrous cycle, and the case of menstrual cycle that is 50%. The follicular phase and luteal phase are the you can say the difference in the percentage of the duration. The fertile period is 24 hours after the you can say ovulation, and up to 6 days in the case of menstrual cycle after the ovulation. No, that is the 24 hours. That's the fertile period during the heat time, and there is 6 days in the case of menstrual cycle. Endometrial sloughing is not present in the case of estrous cycle after the luteolysis. It takes place in the case of menstrual cycle. The luteolysis is caused by the PGF2 alpha from the uterus, and ovarian PGF2 alpha causes the luteolysis in the case of menstrual cycle. Sexual receptivity is well defined, that is the uniform in the case of menstrual cycle. And the P4 function and sex receptivity inhibits GnRH, inhibits sexual sex, inhibits GnRH, and does not you can say define the sex. In the case of menopause, we can say that the no described menopause in the case of estrous cycle and is well characterized in the case of the menstrual cycle. If we talk about the you can say when there is the first heat after the anestrus, then why the animal does not show the typical signs of the estrus, typical signs of the heat. When the animal comes in the heat after in the estrus after a period of anestrus, then the brain needs some kind of priming. The brain is not you can say ready for the signs of the estrus. When the first heat comes, then after the ovulation, the carpal luteum form, and carpal luteum produces the P4. And this P4 moves to the brain, and it primes the you can say the brain, and in the next cycle when there is a the priming of the brain by P4 enables estradioles secreted by the next ovulatory follicle to elicit a full behavioral estrus, and the next cycle the priming of the P4 that renders the brain to show the signs of estrus when the E2 level is elevated. Here we can say the size of the follicles from primordial follicle, primary follicle, secondary follicle, and early tertiary follicle, and the different structures present in them. And you can say in this tertiary follicle there is an antrum and the follicle and the well-developed thecal cells and the granulosal cells. Histological structure of a Graphian follicle or fully developed follicle, you can see and the externally there is a theca externa and theca interna and the internal site, and there is a you can say granulosal cells and you can see here the cumulus around the oophore around the oocyte, and there is antrum cavity present in the fully developed Graphian follicle. In this condition, you can also see these structures: the theca interna, theca externa, the basal membrane, and the granulosal cells and the antrum. In this picture, there depicts that the thecal cells have the receptors for the LH hormone, and the you can say the granulosal cells have the receptor for the FSH hormone, and that is described in this picture. There is a term that is called two cell two gonadotropin theory. When there is a dominant follicle that expresses the receptors for the LH hormone, this LH hormone acts on the theca interna cell, and that converts the cholesterol into testosterone. When the cholesterol is converted into testosterone, the granulosal cells show the receptor for the you can say FSH hormone, and then convert that testosterone into estradiol. The testosterone and estradiol are the two you can uh, the LH and FSH are two gonadotropin, and the granulosal cells and the thecal cells are the two cells, and this is the final product is estradiol that moves into the blood, and that shows the signs of the heat during the you can say the dominant follicle. This in this picture the same term is described in different condition. You can see the cholesterol is converted into progesterone and androstenedione and testosterone, and then it is converted into estrone and estradiol by the granular cells under the action of the FSH. If we talk about the ovulation, when the pre-ovulatory LH surge comes, then there is an increased level of the PGE2, and that increases the blood flow toward the ovary and the dominant follicle, that causes the fluid accumulation in the antrum of the follicle, and that weakens the wall and increases the follicular pressure that results in the ovulation. It also increases the PGF2 alpha production, that increases the muscular contraction of the smooth muscle and increases the follicular production that also results in the ovulation. And the PGF2 alpha increase that results in the release of the lysosomal enzymes that also degrades or the weakens the wall of the you can say weakens the wall of the follicle, and that also renders the ovulation. There is also a shift from E2 to the P4 production when there is LS, there is the presence of LS surge. Under the action of P4, there is the production of collagenase enzyme that also weakens the wall of the follicle. That is the that as a result of these factors, the edema formation and contraction of the smooth muscle under the action of the PGF2 alpha, the release of lysosomal enzymes and the collagenase enzymes that result in increased follicular pressure and the weakened walls of the follicle, and as a result ovulation takes place. In this picture, the same events are you can say the expressed in a different way. The pre-ovulatory LSR, that is the cumulus expansion as a result of the edema, and oocytes separate from the follicular wall. And in the case of there is a protein synthesis around the follicle, that is progesterone, plasminogen activator, and prostaglandin synthesis. The progesterone that renders collagenase enzymes, and in the case of plasminogen activator, that activates the plasminogen, increase blood flow toward the ovary, that increase the vascular permeability, and the plasminogen is present. Plasminogen is converted by plasminogen activity in plasmin, and plasmin converts the collagenase into collagenase inactive form into collagenase active form, that weakens the follicular wall. And under the action of the prostaglandin, that is the PGF2 alpha and PGE2, that also result in smooth muscle contraction, and as a result the ovulation takes place. Thank you very much. This is the end of our video. If you found this video informative, then subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you very much.